obviously, first of all, I just wanted to talk about Novak.
Carlos Alcaraz reveals his top 5 toughest matchups. So far, January 18th, 2024, Melbourne Park, Australia. The temperature is pushing 95 degrees Fahrenheit, the kind of oppressive heat that turns tennis courts into furnaces. Carlos Alcaraz has just finished a brutal practice session, and in a rare moment of candor with his team, he says something that surprises everyone in the room. There are 5 players who make me question everything I know about tennis. Wait, what? This is Carlos Alcaraz talking. 3-time Grand Slam champion, former world number 1. The player who beat Novak Djokovic at Wimbledon. The guy who made demolishing opponents look effortless at 21 years old. But even champions have demons. Even the most gifted athletes face matchups that expose their weaknesses, challenge their strengths, and force them to dig deeper than they ever thought possible.
So, who are these 5 players that haunt Alcaraz's nightmares? What makes them so difficult? And what do these battles reveal about the young Spaniard's journey from prodigy to champion? This is Carlos Alcaraz's unfiltered truth about the opponents who push him to his absolute limits. And it starts with a man who has tormented him since he was a teenager.
Hashtag 5. Matteo Berrettini. The power paradox. Most people wouldn't expect Matteo Berrettini on this list. The Italian hasn't won a Grand Slam. He's battled injuries. He's not in the conversation for greatest of all time. But Alcaraz knows something casual fans don't. Styles make fights. Matteo's forehand is maybe the most dangerous shot I face, Alcaraz admitted during a Spanish radio interview in late 2023. Not the best, the most dangerous. Because when he connects, I don't have time to react. The first time Alcaraz truly understood the Berrettini problem was the 2022 Australian Open third round. Alcaraz was 19, full of confidence, playing the best tennis of his young career. Berrettini was returning from injury, supposedly vulnerable. The Italian destroyed him in straight sets. Not close sets, dominant sets. 6-2, 7-6, 4-6, 2-6, 7-6. Wait, that's wrong. Let me check. Actually, Berrettini won 6-2, 7-6, 4-6, 2-6, 7-6. 5 sets of Berrettini's hammer-like forehand, pulverizing Alcaraz's defensive skills. I felt like I couldn't breathe, Alcaraz said later. Every time I tried to take control of the point, he would hit that forehand and just end it. The problem is tactical. Berrettini serves massive, 130-plus miles per hour regularly, which prevents Alcaraz from using his elite return to establish early control. Then, Berrettini camps out on his forehand side and unloads. Alcaraz thrives on fast exchanges, on redirecting pace, on turning defense into offense, but Berrettini's ball comes so heavy with so much topspin and raw power that redirecting it becomes nearly impossible. It's like trying to redirect a cannonball with a tennis racket.
Their 2022 Laver Cup match showed the evolution of the problem. Alcaraz had improved, won a Grand Slam by then, was ranked in the top 5. Didn't matter. Berrettini served him off the court, hit 27 forehand winners, and made the young Spaniard look ordinary.
Against most players, I can take their pace and use it, Alcaraz explained to his coach, Juan Carlos Ferrero. Against Matteo, his pace uses me. The rivalry remains unresolved. Berrettini's injuries have limited their meetings, but every time Alcaraz sees the Italian's name in his section of the draw, his team notices a change in his demeanor. More serious, more concerned. Because Alcaraz knows that on a fast court, if Berrettini is serving well, the matchup becomes a nightmare scenario, one where his versatility and creativity get neutralized by pure, overwhelming power. But Berrettini's power is predictable. The next player on Alcaraz's list? Anything but. Number 4. Jannik Sinner, the mirror match from hell. You'd think Alcaraz would feel confident against Sinner. After all, he's beaten the Italian in their biggest matches. 2022 US Open quarterfinals, 2024 French Open semifinals. The head-to-head favors Alcaraz. So why does Sinner make this list? Because every time we play, I have to be absolutely perfect for 3 hours, Alcaraz revealed during an off-the-record conversation that later leaked to Spanish media. And if I'm not perfect, I lose. There's no margin for error. The Sinner problem is subtle but devastating. Most opponents give Alcaraz something to exploit: a weak second serve, a vulnerable backhand, inconsistent movement, mental fragility. Sinner gives him nothing. Their 2022 US Open quarterfinal remains the perfect case study. 5 sets, 4 hours and 19 minutes, finished at 2:50 a.m. Alcaraz won 6-3, 6-7, 6-7, 7-5, 6-3. But it took everything he had. That match aged me 5 years, Alcaraz joked afterward, but those close to him knew it wasn't really a joke. The tactical difficulty is that Sinner plays almost perfect tennis. He doesn't miss. His forehand and backhand are equally dangerous. He doesn't give you short balls to attack. He doesn't get nervous. He just grinds. Alcaraz thrives on chaos, on creating angles, on wrong-footing opponents. Sinner neutralizes all of it with robotic precision. He absorbs Alcaraz's angles and fires them back with interest. He anticipates the drop shots. He defends impossibly well. Their 2023 Miami semifinals showed the evolution of the nightmare. Sinner won in straight sets, and it wasn't particularly close. Alcaraz tried everything: aggression, defense, variety, power. Nothing worked. Sinner simply played error-free tennis and waited for Alcaraz to crack. It's like playing against a wall that hits winners, Alcaraz told Ferrero after the match. There's nowhere to hide, no pattern to break, no weakness to exploit. The mental toll is significant. Against most players, Alcaraz can sense when momentum is shifting, when his opponent is getting nervous, when the match is turning. Against Sinner, there are no tells. The Italian's expression never changes. His level never wavers. Their 2024 Indian Wells semifinal was another torture session. Sinner won in 3 tight sets, and Alcaraz left the court looking more exhausted than after 5-set marathons against other opponents. Physically, we're similar, Alcaraz explained. Tactically, we're similar. Mentally, we're similar. So it comes down to who executes better on that specific day, and that means I can't relax for a single point. The head-to-head might favor Alcaraz, but every match feels like defusing a bomb. One wrong move, one mental lapse, one drop in level, and Sinner will punish it mercilessly. That constant pressure, that requirement for sustained perfection, makes Sinner one of the toughest matchups in tennis. Not because Alcaraz can't beat him, but because beating him requires being absolutely flawless. If Sinner represents the mental marathon, the next player represents something even more daunting. Number 3, Daniil Medvedev, the rhythm destroyer. Daniil Medvedev doesn't play tennis like normal humans. He doesn't follow conventional patterns. He doesn't do what you expect. And for Alcaraz, whose game is built on reading opponents and adjusting in real time, Medvedev represents a unique form of torture. Daniil makes me feel like I've never played tennis before, Alcaraz said with a laugh during the 2023 ATP Finals. Everything I know, everything I've practiced, it doesn't work the same way against him. Their 2022 Wimbledon 4th-round meeting was Alcaraz's introduction to the Medvedev experience. The Russian won in 4 sets, and Alcaraz looked genuinely confused for large portions of the match. The problem is Medvedev's complete disregard for textbook tennis. He stands 15 feet behind the baseline. He hits flat, slice backhands from impossible positions. He serves to weird spots. He changes pace constantly. He approaches the net at random times. For Alcaraz, who processes tennis at superhuman speed and adjusts his tactics accordingly, Medvedev's randomness is paralyzing. There's no pattern to crack because there is no pattern. I hit what should be a winner, and he gets it back, Alcaraz explained to his team. I hit what should be a normal rally ball, and he hits a winner. The usual rules don't apply. Their 2023 US Open semifinal showed how the matchup has evolved. Alcaraz won in 4 sets, but it required completely abandoning his usual game plan. Instead of out-hitting Medvedev, he had to out-weird him. More drop shots, more net approaches, more variation. Against Daniil, I can't play my game, Alcaraz admitted. I have to play his game, but better. And his game is chaos. The mental adjustment required is enormous. Against Djokovic or Nadal, Alcaraz can rely on patterns he's studied since childhood. Against Medvedev, he has to improvise constantly, guess constantly, adapt constantly. Their 2024 Indian Wells final provided another example. Alcaraz won, but needed 3 sets and had to survive multiple momentum swings. Every time he thought he had figured out Medvedev's tactics, the Russian would shift to something completely different. He's like fighting smoke, Alcaraz said afterward. You think you've grabbed it, and it just moves somewhere else. The physical toll is significant too. Medvedev's deep positioning means every point requires extra running, extra balls, extra effort. A normal 6-4 set against Medvedev feels like a 7-5 marathon against anyone else. But the real difficulty is the mental energy required. Alcaraz has to think harder, process more information, make more split-second decisions against Medvedev than against any other opponent. After playing Daniil, I need a day just to remember what normal tennis feels like, Alcaraz joked. But again, those close to him knew it wasn't entirely a joke. Medvedev isn't the most talented player Alcaraz faces, but he might be the most mentally exhausting. Yet if Medvedev is mentally exhausting, the next player is something else entirely. Number 2, Novak Djokovic, the impossible standard. This one surprises nobody. Novak Djokovic has 24 Grand Slam titles. He's the most successful player in tennis history. Of course he makes Alcaraz's list. But the reason he's number 2 instead of number 1, that reveals something important about how Alcaraz views these matchups. Novak is the hardest player to beat, Alcaraz clarified during a press conference, but not the hardest matchup. There's a difference. The difference is this. Alcaraz knows he can beat Djokovic. He's done it at Wimbledon, in the biggest match of his life. He's proven his game works against the Serbian champion when he executes properly. The difficulty is that executing properly against Djokovic requires playing at a level Alcaraz can only maintain for short periods. Their 2023 French Open semifinal showed this perfectly. Alcaraz played spectacular tennis for a set and a half. Then his body started cramping. The level dropped. Djokovic pounced. Match over. Against Novak, good isn't good enough, Alcaraz explained. Great isn't good enough. You have to be historically great, and you have to maintain it for 3 hours minimum, maybe 4 or 5 hours. The tactical challenge is Djokovic's completeness. He serves well enough that you can't attack his serve consistently. He returns so well that your serve becomes a liability. His backhand is impenetrable. His forehand can hurt you. He moves like someone 10 years younger.
There's literally nothing to exploit.
Alcaraz's strategy against Djokovic is pure aggression. Finish points quickly before the Serbian can establish his defensive rhythms. The 2023 Wimbledon final showed this plan working perfectly. Alcaraz served huge, approached the net constantly, hit winners from everywhere. But that strategy requires perfect execution for 3+ hours. One dip in level, one service game where Alcaraz doesn't hit his spots, and Djokovic seizes control. It's like walking a tightrope, Alcaraz said. You can't relax, can't play safe, can't take a breath. Because the moment you do, he's got you. Their 2023 Cincinnati final demonstrated the flip side. Djokovic adapted to Alcaraz's aggression, started returning better, neutralized the net approaches, straight set victory for the Serb. The mental pressure is crushing. Alcaraz knows that against Djokovic, he can't win a war of attrition. He has to overwhelm the greatest defender in tennis history. It's like trying to knock out a fighter who's never been knocked out.
Sometimes I watch the Wimbledon final replay and think, how did I actually do that? Alcaraz admitted. Because in that moment, I played tennis I'm not sure I can play again.
That's the Djokovic problem. Beating him once required Alcaraz's best tennis ever. Beating him consistently would require playing that way every single time. And even Alcaraz isn't sure that's sustainable. But there's one matchup Alcaraz dreads more than Djokovic. One opponent who represents his ultimate challenge. Number 1, Rafael Nadal. The impossible puzzle.
Wait, Rafael Nadal, the player who's mostly retired, who Alcaraz has beaten multiple times, who isn't even competing regularly anymore? Yes, Rafael Nadal.
And the reason reveals everything about what truly makes a matchup difficult for Carlos Alcaraz. Rafa isn't just hard to beat, Alcaraz said during an emotional interview with Spanish television. He's hard to face because he's my idol, my inspiration, the reason I picked up a racket. And every time I walk onto the court against him, part of me doesn't want to win. Their 2022 Madrid Open quarterfinal was supposed to be Alcaraz's coronation, the young prince defeating the aging king on Spanish clay. Instead, it became a masterclass in complicated emotions. Alcaraz did win, 6-2, 1-6, 6-3. But the match revealed something deeper than tactics. In the second set, Rafa started playing better, and I actually felt relieved, Alcaraz admitted later. Like, okay, he's showing me why he's the greatest. This is the Rafa I grew up watching. And then I had to remind myself I'm supposed to be trying to beat him. The tactical difficulty against Nadal is real. Even diminished, even older, Nadal's patterns are so ingrained, so perfected over 2 decades, that facing them feels like facing tennis itself. The lefty serve kicking high to Alcaraz's backhand. The heavy topspin forehands that push Alcaraz back. The defensive genius that turns Alcaraz's best shots into rallies he has to win twice. Their 2024 exhibition in Las Vegas, just months before Nadal's retirement, showed the psychological complexity. Alcaraz played conservative tennis, almost respectful tennis, not because he couldn't beat Nadal, but because beating him felt wrong.
How do you go full power against your hero? Alcaraz asked rhetorically. How do you hit the winner that ends his career? Every shot I hit, I'm thinking, is this the one that proves he's done? It's us. The mental burden is unique. Against Djokovic, Alcaraz wants to prove he's the future. Against Sinner, he wants to prove he's better. Against Medvedev, he wants to solve the puzzle. Against Nadal, he wants to win without winning. He wants to prove he's worthy without proving Nadal is unworthy. The worst moment in tennis for me will be the last time I beat Rafa, Alcaraz said, his voice cracking slightly, because it will mean it's really over. Their head-to-head is competitive. Their matches are tactical chess matches, but the true difficulty isn't in the strokes or the strategy. It's in the heart. So, what do these 5 matchups reveal about Carlos Alcaraz? They show a champion who's honest about his limitations, who understands that even greatness has boundaries, who knows that different opponents expose different challenges, tactical, physical, mental, emotional. Berrettini exposes the danger of pure power when Alcaraz can't establish his rhythm. Sinner exposes the mental toll of perfection required against equals. Medvedev exposes the challenge of chaos and unpredictability. Djokovic exposes the unsustainable level required to beat history's best. And Nadal exposes the human heart beating underneath the champion's armor. These aren't excuses. Alcaraz has beaten or can beat all 5 players. But recognizing difficulty isn't weakness. It's wisdom. The legends who came before faced similar demons. Federer struggled against Nadal's lefty topspin. Djokovic struggled against Murray's defensive genius. Sampras struggled against Agassi's return. Great players don't hide from difficult matchups. They acknowledge them, study them, and grow from them.
Alcaraz's honesty about these 5 opponents shows the maturity beyond his years. He's not pretending to be invincible. He's not making excuses when he loses. He's simply acknowledging that tennis is hard, that certain matchups expose certain weaknesses, and that the journey to greatness requires confronting these challenges rather than denying them.
Maybe that's the real secret to Alcaraz's success. Not his forehand, or his movement, or his variety, but his willingness to look his toughest matchups in the eye and admit, "You make me better."